It's 2 in the morning and the street has gone quiet, except for the convenience store on the corner, still lit up. You push open the glass door, grab a bottle of water and a sandwich. The clerk, looking up from a freshly delivered box of stock, says, "Welcome in." We're all used to seeing 7-Elevens and other convenience chains glowing on street corners, open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But have you ever wondered why a convenience store keeps its lights on, its air conditioning running, its shelves stocked, and its power on through the dead of night when almost no one's around? If you ran a 7-Eleven, would you close at midnight or stay open around the clock? Late night hours bring in only a trickle of customers, yet they cost even more. Higher power bills, more overhead, without the revenue to match. So, is staying open 24 hours really worth it? Today, let's talk about the story behind that never-dimming light. How convenience stores came to operate around the clock. It starts with a name everyone knows, 7-Eleven, a brand that actually got its start not in Japan, but in Dallas, Texas. The name traces back to 1946, when the chain rebranded around its hours. Open at 7 in the morning, closed at 11 at night. The concept crossed the Pacific in 1974, when the first Japanese 7-Eleven opened in Toyosu, Tokyo, under license from the American company. That doesn't sound like much today, but back then, most ordinary shops closed by early evening. Being able to buy milk, bread, a hot meal, or daily necessities as late as 11 p.m. was in itself a new way of life. In other words, the 24-hour model didn't appear all at once. It started simply as longer hours than a typical shop. But that one shift planted an idea in people's minds. Shopping didn't have to bend to a store's schedule. A store could bend to the rhythm of people's lives instead. By the late 1970s, urban life in Japan was speeding up. Commutes grew longer, and office workers came home later and later, wanting hot food the moment they walked in, rather than facing the exhausting task of cooking late at night. Travelers, medical staff, night shift factory workers, and service industry employees also needed somewhere to find food, drinks, and daily goods deep into the night. That's how the demand for 24-hour operation was born. In 1978, 7-Eleven Japan began operating around the clock. On the surface, that just meant keeping the doors open past 11 p.m. But the real difficulty was this. Once a store commits to being open any time, it can't simply staff a night clerk and call it done. Shelves need stock through the night. Food needs to stay fresh. Refrigeration must run continuously. The checkout system has to stay stable, and everything needs restocking before the morning rush. So building a 24-hour convenience store was really about building an entire production, logistics, and sales system. In 1976, 7-Eleven began promoting joint distribution so that different products no longer depended entirely on scattered individual suppliers, but were consolidated for more efficient restocking. In 1978, an ordering terminal was developed and introduced, letting stores feed demand data back to headquarters more systematically. After the point-of-sale system was introduced in 1982, every sale became data. What sold and when. Which products were more popular at night. Which stores needed more frequent restocking. All of it visible, all of it analyzable, and all of it turned into real optimization and higher sales. With these systems in place, convenience stores truly evolved, from simply extending their hours into an always-online retail network. That sandwich you grab at 2 a.m. isn't just the product of someone covering a night shift. It's the result of ordering, inventory, cold chain logistics, distribution, sales data, and staff scheduling, all working together. Without these unseen layers, 24-hour operation could easily become an empty shell with the lights left on. The store's functions kept expanding. In 1987, utility bill payment services launched. In 2001, 24-hour ATMs were installed in stores. Later came bill payments, ticket purchases, package pickup, and more. Convenience stores stopped being just places to buy snacks and drinks. They became something closer to the nearest treasure box in the neighborhood. That's also why, during disasters like major earthquakes in Japan, convenience stores and their supply networks are treated as part of community relief, normally solving late hours, night shifts, and sudden needs, but in special moments, becoming a hub where residents get supplies and information. So building the 24-hour convenience store model was never just about extending hours from 11 p.m. to the next morning. It grew step by step, layering supply chains, information systems, overnight delivery, in-store services, and civic trust, ultimately becoming a kind of business promise. Whenever you need something, we'll try to be there. Once this model succeeded quickly, 24-hour operation gradually shifted from being a competitive advantage to becoming the default standard. In Japan, many convenience stores aren't run directly by headquarters, but by franchise operators managing individual locations. Headquarters provides the brand, product development, distribution network, operating rules, and system support. Franchisees handle daily staffing, hiring, losses, and on-the-ground operations. Foot traffic is high by day and sparse at night, but if the contract and the brand promise require 24-hour operation, the night shift can't turn off the lights and close up, even while losing money. From the customer's perspective, uniform 24-hour service has real value. You don't need to check which store is open. If you see a lit sign around the corner, you know you can walk in. For headquarters, keeping lights on everywhere maintains brand consistency and supports the night delivery and service network. But for an individual store, the situation can look very different. Demand late at night varies wildly between business districts, transit hubs, and residential neighborhoods. And whether night staff can even be found varies too. When nighttime revenue can't cover labor and operating costs, should a store grit its teeth and stay open 24 hours, or push back and make a change? As Japan's population aged and labor shortages worsened, this tension became harder and harder to hide. In February of 2019, a 7-Eleven franchise owner in Higashi-Osaka in Osaka Prefecture, unable to find enough staff long-term, decided to shorten his store's overnight hours instead of staying open 24 hours. His decision touched one of the most sensitive nerves in the entire chain system. If one store can turn off its own lights, what happens to the deeply ingrained brand image of 7-Eleven, always open? The dispute quickly made headlines. The owner's side argued that, without enough staff to keep running through the night, continuing meant risking his own health for the sake of a handful of late-night customers and the modest revenue they brought in. Headquarters, meanwhile, had to weigh contracts, customer expectations, and consistency across the chain. Now, flip the perspective. If you're a customer walking in at 2 in the morning, of course you want the store open. But if you're the one standing behind the counter, unable to hire night staff, forced to cover the shift yourself, where even closing to sleep could count as a breach of contract, would you still think every single store has to stay lit all night? So really, the biggest issue for convenience stores was never that consumers stopped wanting convenience. It's whether every location, every night, every store should have to provide that convenience in exactly the same way. After the controversy, 7-Eleven Japan began testing shortened overnight hours at select locations. A policy and a bottom line the brand had long taken pride in was, for the first time, put on the table for negotiation. In 2020, a survey went out to 57,524 franchise stores across major national convenience chains, and 12,093 responded. The data showed the number of stores operating 24 hours had dropped from 51,033 at the end of fiscal year 2018 to 48,888 by July of 2020. The survey also showed that many franchisees wanted, at the very least, the option to discuss switching away from 24-hour operation. But that doesn't mean 24-hour convenience stores are a mistake. Quite the opposite. They've become something modern society needs, even if not everyone uses them every day. For someone getting off work at 2 a.m., a family suddenly needing food or supplies, a night traveler, or a community in the middle of a disaster, a lit-up convenience store is a kind of safe harbor. The model's success actually proves just how much modern cities need timely, stable, nearby services. The trouble is, once we start taking that convenience for granted, it's easy to forget its cost. The delivery driver on the road at night bringing fresh food, the night clerk staying awake so the counter is always staffed, the franchise owner absorbing the burden of never closing, the endless shifts, the burnout, the inverted sleep schedules. And this isn't just a Japanese story anymore. Today, versions of the same debate are playing out across American cities. Convenience stores, delivery drivers, instant retail, and 24-hour services are all converging on the same question. Consumers want things available anytime. Brands want to promise reliability. But do the people actually standing there in the middle of the night have room to choose rest or adjustment, or the simple option to say no? You might say, well, that's just their job. But if it were you, would you trade your health for that extra pay? So looking back at the birth and controversy of the 24-hour convenience store model, on the surface, it's about whether one store should stay open all night. But underneath, it's about how modern life keeps shrinking people's waiting time and how the time saved gets shifted onto someone else's working hours. At first, 24-hour operation was a brilliant innovation, using small stores, distribution, and data to put hot food, bill payments, cash withdrawals, and emergency essentials on every street corner, making countless ordinary lives easier. Later, its problems surfaced. Not enough night staff, harder and harder to hire for the night shift. Franchisees left with little room to negotiate. A light that never goes out can also become the reason another group of people never gets to clock out. What's really worth discussing isn't whether we deserve convenience, it's whether convenience can be built on rules that are more transparent, more flexible, and more fair. Some locations genuinely need to stay open all night. Some stores should perhaps be allowed to rest late at night. Some services are worth preserving, but the cost and the pressure shouldn't fall entirely on the shop owner. Next time you pass a still-lit convenience store at 2 in the morning, you might still walk in for a bottle of water. Only this time you'll know that light illuminates more than just the shelves. It also lights up a question: who should really be paying for the convenience we enjoy? If you owned a convenience store, caught between your customers' needs and your night staff's lives, would you stick with 24 hours or choose to turn off the lights at night? Leave your thoughts in the comments.